It is Wednesday, the 11th of November, the year of our Lord 2020. It is Remembrance Day in the United Kingdom. It is Veterans Day here in the United States. It's Armistice Day throughout the world. And when we talk about history and the process of history, remember, the guns went silent today to stop at that, up until that time, the bloodiest war in mankind's history. And the leaders of the world referred to it as the war to end all wars, the war to make the world safe for democracy. They had great expectations. And look at what the peace treaty that was signed, everything they worked on that came after the League of Nations, all of it just triggered an even bigger war, and even a bigger global catastrophe 20 years later, the law of unintended consequences. And that has triggered a Cold War. The solution of that triggered a Cold War, enslavement of other billions of people in China and Eastern Europe and in the Soviet Union in this process. And who's the motive or the driving force through all of this? For freedom. It's been the United States of America, not just the country. It's been the deplorables. Remember, it's on your shoulders. That's the folks that were in the trenches, right? What did Tolkien finally, wrote when he wrote Lord of the Rings? They were the hobbits from the Shire. I was corrected today by one of our research staff, which is fantastic. Actually corrected me in the moment. It's actually the Inklings, Charles Williams and Tolkien and all that were from Oxford. Right, but he wrote that as really a poem of remembrance and thanks to the hobbits. Hobbits are just the deplorables. It's the little guy. That's the one he was most impressed with. It was from the little shires, and those are the ones that stood up to the mechanized warfare of the Germans. And it's the same thing in World War II. The G.I. Joe, just the common man. When they asked Eisenhower who was the most important soldier in the entire war, he said G.I. Joe, the basic soldier, the basic grunt, right? That dog-faced, unwashed GI. Same thing throughout the world. It's what's in China, Lao Baijing, old 100 names. Whether you're a hobbit, whether you're Lao Baijing, whether you're deplorable, it's upon your shoulders it all rests. We're on the John Fredericks Radio Network. We're in Real America's Voice, the streaming platform of the Trump Revolution. It's now Dish Channel 219 and Comcast Channel 113, Newsmax TV, G News, GTV throughout the world on every platform. And back maybe tomorrow for Good Boys on YouTube. Back to our YouTube account. I can't even have good behavior. I can't. That's the thing for another day. I can't. Besmirch the importance of this day, of which and President Trump. We're gonna have it later. President Trump went to Arlington, laid a wreath. But I do think it's important to always keep in mind we have Memorial Day. Memorial Day is for our honored dead, and Veterans Day is for those who served. And it's great that he went out there. We're going to have footage on that later. I want to turn now to Amy Kremer, talk about profiles and courage. She's one of the founders of the Tea Party movement, Women for Trump. She is a firebrand. Most important thing about Amy, things get done. This is what I say. When the Tea Party movement was really led by women, and that's why so much got done, because men are going to talk about it, women are going to actually do it and accomplish it, and it's so impressive. So, Amy, tell us about your action oriented. You want to have a rally here in Washington, D.C. this Saturday. Can you tell us what you're trying to pull together?
Well, listen, Steve, I mean, starting last weekend, or probably Thursday night, actually, we started having people show up at state capitals around the country, especially in these battleground states. We occupied that space at state capitals all across the country through the weekend. Some of it's continued on this week. And people are mad. They're mad as hell. They feel like that, this has been stolen. The media can chastise us all they want and make fun of us and call us names. But at the end of the day, it's the American people that decide the president, not the media. And so people want to go to Washington. They want to march on Washington. They're not going to back down. This has gone on way too long. I am a firm believer that fraud is something that's happened across the country for a number of years. And if President Trump can expose it, that's what we want. But at the end of the day, people want transparent. They want fair and free elections. We want valid elections. This is about the foundation of our nation, our republic. And, no matter who, I'm concerned because no matter who wins, the other side is not going to accept the results. So we're going to march on Washington this weekend. We've been stopped at every point, whether it be big tech, National Park Service, whatever. pulling punches with us, but we will be there on Saturday at noon at Freedom Plaza, and we are going to march to the Supreme Court, and we are going to have our voices heard, and we want our president to know he has fought for us, and now we're fighting for him.
I want to ask you, is this bigger than actual President Trump, and is this about the Constitution of the Republic? And you keep hearing guys say, oh, we ought to have hearings so this never happens again. Does it have to stop here and now? Do we have to lance the bull on this at this time and place? Or are you prepared to say, oh, let's have some hearings and let's have Lindsey Graham have some hearings and we'll deal with this in 2021 after Joe Biden's inaugurated?
No, I'm not. I mean, that is not going to make me happy. Hearings are nothing. They never produce anything. They're dog and pony shows where a member of Congress can get up and ask the questions, whatever, and nothing ever comes of it. We want to know what is going on. And quite frankly, I'm not so sure that the DOJ maybe doesn't have some involvement in it. We know that the swamp is deep, but how deep does it go and who has been involved in this? And if it is, I say that President Trump, he's fought for us. The justices he's put on the court is his real legacy and exposing the fake news. But maybe he has another very important part of his legacy, and maybe that is exposing voter fraud for what it really is. And I am afraid to see what it really is, Steve, quite honestly.
You had the tech oligarchs came after you guys personally, you, your daughter, the site. We got to bounce here, but I want you to make sure the public understands what they did in this situation.
So last week, the day after the election, we started a Facebook group, Stop the Steal. Within 22 hours, it had 365,000 members organically, growing at a rate of 1,000 new members every 10 seconds, something they'd never seen before. Well, Facebook went in and shut it down, and they actually banned a number of the moderators. Next day, MailChimp shuts our MailChimp account down, bans us from there. Then yesterday, Eventbrite shuts down our event on Eventbrite, and not only just shuts it down, but then sends a notice out to the people that have bought tickets that were $3 each, so that we knew they were real people and not the left trying to hack the site. They send notices out that it's been canceled. Well, my message is big tech is not going to shut us down. Senator Marsha Blackburn knows that this is going on. Some other members of Congress, we're going to go after them after all this other stuff clears out. But we're not going to back down. Big tech is not going to silence us. And Steve, you know what I say to this? They talked about Russian collusion for 4 years, looking for a stupid PP tape. Why can't we wait, a couple of weeks and find out exactly what happened in this election? The American people deserve to know. And the bigger part of that story is, you want to talk about Russian collusion? Let's talk about big tech collusion. The enemy is right here within our own country.
Big tech is in business with the Chinese Communist Party. That's what the issue is. Okay,
Right.
Amy, how do people get to this site? How do they, because every day, every show, we're talking about this. We want as many people show up as possible, support the president, support the Constitution. Where do they go? How do they get the information?
TrumpMarch.com. You can get all the information there. Saturday, 12 noon, Freedom Plaza. And follow us on Twitter. You can follow me, Amy Kremer, on Twitter. And we will be there. We will absolutely be there. And we will not back down, Steve. And I want to say real quick, if I can, I was one of the founding members of the Tea Party movement. This is like Tea Party on steroids, amplified 1,000 times. I've never seen anything like it. It is really amazing, and I'm excited to be a part of it, and we'll see you in Washington on Saturday.
Amy, you're tough as boot leather, and there's not 1 ounce of back down in you, so I appreciate you coming
I'm a
on. We'll
mom,
have you
that's
on.
why.
Amy Kremer. Our crack research staff has sent me, research staff is on it. The research staff has sent me Frank Gaffney's Every Legal Vote. When you go on, a couple of our listeners have gone on during the thing, it pops up, suspicious link. This link leads to an untrusted site. An untrusted site. Are you sure you want to proceed to everylegalvote.com? Google. This is complete. Okay, this is out of control. It's out of control. They played footsies over at the White House with these tech oligarchs early on. I warned. I said, these guys are not your friends. Okay? These are bad hombres. And it's just coming home to roost. You go to everylegalvote.com, which is a website, and here's what it's got. It's got a map of electoral map, that you can see the states with fraud and not fraud and all that and see what the electoral college vote is. And it's got a place that you can put up things that you've seen that leads to voter fraud. And what does Google put up? Suspicious link. This link leads to an untrusted site. I didn't know Google was a publisher. I thought a section is at 230. This is just nonsense. You got to get control of these guys.
Well, and it's also, Steve, part of this global takedown that we've been talking about, this interconnectedness amongst the mainstream media globally and also these big tech companies globally. This is a concerted effort across the board. We saw it with Twitter, YouTube, everything cascaded almost by the moment for us, and we've heard this from other people around the world. So people, if we don't think that we're in a fight, we are in a fight, and it's time for the little guy to start making these billionaires accountable for thinking that they control everything we think.
Well, they do. They got the algorithms. Here's what we got to do, because remember, because the market cap is so big and they employ nobody, the margins are so huge because we don't really allow people to monetize their data appropriately. But we'll do all that when we turn them into public utilities, which we're going to do. And here's, I think, something we can work on with Bernie and those guys. But here's the reality: is that they have every lobbyist firm in town on the payroll virtually. They have all the law firms on town, so you can't sue them on the payroll, right? So they're conflicted out. They have these PACs. That's why they were playing patty cake at these hearings, right? Because they're on the payroll. They got PACs. I want to turn now. Let's go to Georgia. And John Fredericks from the John Fredericks Radio Network. John, you got breaking news out of Georgia. You've been on it all day. Can you give us up to date on what's going on?
Steve, we're here. We're dug in like a trench. We're going to be here in Atlanta. I moved my operation here. We're going to be here for 2 months through January 6th and beyond. Number one, the Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger, today, he's a weasel. Both Senator Perdue and Kelly Loeffler called on the weasel Raffensperger to resign. He said no, but they put huge pressure on him, and so did we. It's amazing when you shine the light, Steve, on people, when you shine the media light of truth, how all of a sudden things change. And I believe that our network here in Georgia is part of it. But Raffensperger today caved in and went with Doug Collins' demand that they have a hand recount of every vote in every county across Georgia of the presidential race. This is going to take about 3 weeks. They're going to scrutinize every vote. This is why this decision has put the fear of God in the Democrat fraud machine, because this stuff is going to start getting exposed right now. And let me just tell you that when they say all over the news, there's no evidence of fraud, let me tell you, in Georgia so far, without even a hand recount, without even verification, so far, we've uncovered 175 people that are dead have voted. These dead people voted. Here's what happened. Somebody applied for an absentee ballot for a dead person. They filled out the absentee ballot for a dead person. They mailed it in. The vote got counted. That's a felony. These people are dead. So there's your fraud. So for the media to say there's no fraud is a complete fake news lie. Second thing that came out today is we find out.
I tell you what, John, can you hang on 1 second? We want to allow you to sell some ads on the John Frederick Radio Network and Real America's Voice. We're going to monetize. We're going to monetize. We're going to monetize this as capitalists. We are capitalists, and I want to thank you for all the work. I want you to hold over. News coming out of Georgia. News coming out of Pennsylvania. News coming out of Michigan. News coming out of Arizona. News coming out of Nevada. You know what? I'm kind of getting tired of winning on a rainy Veterans Day. We'll be back. John Fredericks, just a moment.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Breaking news out of Utah on one of the most important congressional races out there. Burgess Owens, Greg Manns, what do we got?
Yep, so in the 4th Congressional District in Utah, Burgess Owens leads Ben McAdams by just under 1,700 votes.
And how much is that? By the way, Burgess Owens is going to be one of the most important guys we have in Congress. This guy is a fire breather. He's a good man. and just fantastic. Consider him a good buddy and a real colleague. How much do we know? What percentage is in yet?
I'm going to dig into that.
Okay, dig into that. But Burgess Owens up by 1,700 votes. Jack Maxey.
They also just updated the numbers in Arizona. It has tightened a little bit more. Trump is within 12,800 votes now. They just updated it a few minutes ago. They're declaring that 98% have reported. So we've still got a ways to
2%.
go.
Right. We're going to have at the bottom of the hour. We're going to have both Boris Epshteyn from the campaign and Ben from Real America's Voice. Was it Ben Bergquam, who's been doing tremendous reports out there and actually has a package for us. We're going to get Ben and Boris out at the bottom of the hour. To go back to Georgia and John Frederick. So, John, are they finally getting some spine? And how long is this hand count going to take? And are they starting getting worried about the timing here about certification in Michigan and Pennsylvania? The House, controlled by Republicans, coming out saying, hey, they want an audit, right, to get this certification done. The court case today at the state level brought by this David Coleman, this great lawyer at the Great Lakes Defense Center, a conservative defense center, brought a case. He's got affidavits from real people. The Biden lawyers are in there nervous, and they're whining about certification and the timing of certification. What is going on in Georgia in this regard, sir?
It's going to take 3 weeks. They think they're going to get done by the end of November, after Thanksgiving. But here's the deal in Georgia. The vote has to first be certified by the Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger. No one really cares what he does, because guess what? There's a law in Georgia that said the vote has to also be certified by Governor Brian Kemp, who wouldn't be governor without Donald J. Trump. So Kemp is going to have to certify the winner of Georgia to seat the electors on December 6th. So he's got 3 choices. The results of the hand count come in and Trump wins, and Brian Kemp certifies the 16 electors for Trump. Secondly, it's undetermined. There's fraud. It's got to be investigated. It's in court. Kemp says, like the Speaker of the Pennsylvania House, you know what? I don't have enough evidence. I can't do anything. I'm not certifying crap. That's number 2. Or number 3, it's close, but he says, hey, at the end of the day, I think Biden won. I'm going to certify Biden. But this is going to come down to Governor Brian Kemp, who wouldn't be governor without President Trump's backing. So that makes it takes it out of the hands of the Secretary of State, puts it into the hands of the governor, and takes it out of the hands of the General Assembly. Now, the other news today is on the residency requirement. 2 things very important for the runoff, right? Number of senators and the congressional delegation has called and demanded a special session to change the loophole in the law to allow people to play golf in Georgia for a weekend and vote in the runoff. Governor Kemp said today, in response to Speaker Pro Tem Jan Jones, Republican from North Georgia, he said there will be no special session because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. A judge will overrule whatever we do because it's already been decided. So Kemp caved on the special session. So did the establishment of the Georgia House. So there'll be no special session in Georgia for that. But then the chairman of the Republican Party of Georgia, David Schaefer, who's a former state senator, said, okay, we have these Facebook posts, Steve. We have Andrew Yang Gang. We have social media accounts encouraging people to come to Georgia and vote illegally, come for a weekend, register to vote, play golf, go swimming, have dinner at Buckhead, leave, go back home, vote. Today, David Schaefer came on my show. He's turned all of these over to the Department of Justice. And what they said is they're going to start prosecuting these people who have encouraged this because it's a felony. It's tough to prove, but the fact that they're encouraging people to come to Georgia for 3 days to play golf or go swimming or have dinner and vote in the primary and then go back to San Francisco or Massachusetts or New York is a felony. They could go to jail. So all that happened in one day.
Georgia is about to become the center of the political universe. We know Susie Wiles and 100 people from Florida are up there to help with this. You've got our own Fog City Midges down in Savannah. There's tons of people heading to Georgia We know you're down there, John. It's going to be, and you look at the convergence of forces. The 6th is got when this all got to be sorted out. December 6th. The 8th is safe harbor. You're supposed to have the electoral colleges start to meet. Electoral college meet in the individual state capitals on, I'm going to throw out a random number, the 14th, which is the same day that early voting starts in the runoff. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, Georgia's got two things. We're trying to close the deal on Trump's victory right now and sort this thing out about these ballots and all this illegal voting or this voting you can't find a chain of title to, and that's where they're now going to do a statewide hand recount. They're also going to go into federal court tomorrow, I think tomorrow at the latest, with a massive lawsuit in Georgia, right, to try to upend this entire thing. The lawsuits in Michigan and Pennsylvania are getting traction right now, and so Georgia's going to be, and then you got the runoff for the Senate seats. And hey, in the recount, you never know. Maybe Purdue goes over the top. John, thank you very much. Look forward to talking to you. John Fredericks of the John Fredericks Radio Network has actually shifted the flag of command down to Atlanta, Georgia for the next couple of weeks. He's already causing havoc down there, shaking it up to get people focused on this with total clarity. So, John, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, Steve. We'll be here right through January 6th for full time. Thank you.
John Fredericks, and we'll be participating in that. He's going to get a whole distribution apparatus down there. The War Room will be part of that. We've said that the generals and admirals that sent this letter to President Trump, about a month and a half, 2 months ago, 250 flag officers, said that this election held on the 3rd, which President Trump won, was the most important election, not just of our lifetime, but the most important election in the history of the Republic, according to them. Because they thought we were at kind of a crossroads. We were going to be one thing or the other, particularly what the radical Democrats were talking about of, adding more states, adding another 100 houses to Congress, going to 15 judges on the Supreme Court. All of this kind of radical things that they were talking about. In addition, we said weeks ago that this was the most important election in 5,000 years of Chinese history. We've had people from the whistleblower movement and the new federal state. We now have Prince on here. And the reason is that they contacted us the other day and said, hey, we're coming down. In fact, they had it first. We're going to the Park Service. We're going to get a permit. We want to come down and rally and just tell the world how important we think it is to have a fair count on this vote, as they see how democracy works in the United States. So, Prince, it's his nom de guerre. As you know, many of these people are under intense pressure from the Chinese Communist Party, particularly for their families. First off, I want to ask you a question. What do you think the Chinese Communist Party, the CCP, is actively involved in trying to change this election, or trying to work their darkness on this election, Prince?
Thank you, Mr. Bannon. First of all, it is an honor to be here. And to answer your question, sir, I think absolutely. I mean, President Xi has his hands all over this. During the second vice presidential debate, when Mike Pence debated Kamala Harris, there was a section when the host asked them questions about China, and it just so happens in all of mainland China, in all the fancy 5-star hotels, you have CNN. Well, when Kamala Harris was talking about China, it played just fine. As soon as Mike Pence started talking about China and the Chinese Communist Party, they said something's wrong with the live feed, right? They cut off the live feed. So I think that's just one example that's very evident. But I think really Joe Biden and his son Biden traveled to China, sold out South China Sea to President Xi, come back with billions of dollars. And I really think Joe Biden is a candidate, not for the Democratic Party, but a candidate for the Chinese Communist Party, and that President Trump is a candidate for America.
So what do you, the new federal state and the whistleblower movement, you've put in to the Park Service, I think, to come down and have a rally. I think it's going to dovetail with the Trump rally. What are you guys trying to accomplish on Saturday? How many people are coming, and how can more people on the diaspora from China find out about it, and where do they have to go to find out about it?
Well, we really came to D.C. to really show support to President Trump, but most importantly, show our support for the rule of law. We believe that in America, it's the rule of law, and the media does not decide who is the president. The Constitution does, the vote does, and the law does. So we want to show our support for President Trump. We support to count all legal votes. And second of all, we want to raise awareness about the Chinese Communist Party's involvement into American politics and American election, and that to let the people know that the new federal state of China, followers of the whistleblowers movement, we stand with the American people, we stand with the law, and we stand strong together, ready to take down the Chinese Communist Party. I think expectedly we probably have at least a few hundreds, if not thousands of people show up. And there's expected hundreds of thousands of people to show up to march in Washington, D.C. on this Saturday to show their support for President Trump. So I think there's going to be a large crowd. We have a huge stage. We have everything ready to go, and we're ready to spread the message.
We look forward to seeing you there, Prince. Thank you very much. We're going to get the website up. We'll be pushing this every day. We want as big a turnout as possible. I want to thank you very much for joining us here on War Room Pandemic.
Sir.
That's Prince. That's his nom de guerre, because these people are so intimidated by the Chinese Communist Party. But they threaten their families, they threaten their friends, they threaten their colleagues. It's absolutely unacceptable, but that's the world in which we live. Okay, we're going to take a short commercial break. We come back, we're going to go to Arizona. They just had a dump, not as big as we thought. It's kind of a smaller one. Boris Epshteyn is going to be with us. We're also going to go to our reporter with Real America's Voice in a package she's got in a great interview, all from Arizona. Next on War Room Pandemic.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Besides the ubiquitous distribution we have on the show itself, we're also the 18th biggest podcast in the United States of America, in all venues, entertainment, sports, all of it, and the 43rd biggest, or 47th biggest in the world. Okay, so I want to thank and appreciate everybody for downloading, now with over 18 million downloads. I want to go out to Arizona right now. I got the great Bergquam from Real America's Voice, and from the campaign, Boris Epshteyn. I want to start with Boris. Boris, the dump today of the voting data was not what we anticipated, as big as it was. Give us up to speed. Why is it taking so long? It kind of feels like Trump is eating into this lead, and they're slow walking this because they don't want it. They understand that to close this gap in Arizona is going to cause a firestorm and a meltdown in their broadcast centers in New York. So tell people first, what is exactly going on out there?
Well, numbers-wise, Stephen, congratulations on the great numbers of the podcast. I think yesterday you were in the 20s, today you're 18. Moving on up. Maybe it's because of how much I'm doing the show. I think maybe that has something to do with it. I don't know. But
this is why you got picked up on Bill Maher as the top of the show, man. You're a headliner. I kept telling you, before I met you, you were a lounge act. Now you're a headliner. But keep going, Boris.
Okay. Now I'm a contender. So Pima, we had 4,589 new votes come down. Not a drop, not a major dump. That's still probably 11,000 in Pima. We always knew there would be a part of Pima that wouldn't go our way, but there have been Pima drops that are at 56, 57. We lost 214 votes there, but then immediately made it up in Yavapai, where we had 377 votes come in and 199 for us. So we're flat for the day so far, in that of 15 votes, which is a plus minus, obviously. And we're waiting for the big Maricopa drop tonight. I'm hearing could be about 13,000 votes. And frankly, this is just taking way too long at this point. You're right. The people of Arizona deserve to know what the vote tally is, as do the people all around America. But we continue to be confident and optimistic. The team here has worked so hard. I've got to give great, huge kudos and congratulations to the Arizona GOP team, the campaign team on the ground here that's gone door to door with volunteers, curing ballots, working hard, making sure that every legal ballot is counted. And we continue to be confident that when that happens, when every legal vote is counted, President Trump will win Arizona.
Have they already made decisions? They're making decisions in Georgia right now. They're going to have a statewide hand recount. Are they going to recanvass? Are they going to audit? Pennsylvania's talking about auditing the situation out there. In Michigan, we're in court everywhere, state court, federal court. State legislatures are getting involved. They're talking about the governor having to make the decision down in Georgia. What is, besides this drip of votes coming out, the bigger picture? Is there going to be an audit? Is there going to be a hand recount? What is going on in Arizona?
Well, the Arizona statewide, the rules for a recount are either 0.01 of 1% of the difference or 200 votes, the lower of. That's what triggers an automatic recount. So that's unlikely to be triggered. Having said that, specific counties can have recounts, and as we know, Maricopa here in really the key part of Arizona for these purposes, where there are over 70% of the votes, there could be a recount in Maricopa. We are in court right now about the green button issue, calling for to determine how many votes were impacted by this issue of when ballots that were damaged were fed in, and instead of being rejected and then a red button being pushed, the poll workers were pushing the green button, not necessarily on purpose at all, but just pushing the green button, feeding that damaged ballot into the machine, thereby damaging it. From what I'm hearing, this is new breaking since yesterday, up to 10,000 votes may have been impacted by this issue, and these are day of Maricopa County votes. We all know that is probably at least 60-40, maybe 70-30 toward the president.
Boris, how do I know you're the top of the show, and Bill Maher. We're going to come back to you tomorrow morning to get an update. What's your Parler handle and what's your Twitter? How do people stay up to all the breaking news with you all day long?
Absolutely. On Twitter, I'm at Boris EP, and on Parler, I'm at Boris. I got the at Boris, not Boris Johnson. It's Boris Epshteyn on Parler, at Boris.
As it's so well deserved. Okay, Boris, thank you very much. Doing a great job out there. Keep hammering. That
God
brother
bless,
is
thanks.
a warrior. Was on 16 with us, head of the surrogates. Okay, now I want to go to the great reporter Ben Bergquam, who's done so many great interviews out there. Ben, give us a sense of the Trump movement out in Maricopa County, in Phoenix. What is you've been out there now? I think we've been interviewing with you for 5 or 6 days. What is happening? Are people starting to get antsy? Are they saying, why is it taking so long? What's the situation with our posse out there?
Yeah, no, they absolutely are, but they're not losing heart at all. We're out here. They're behind us right now. They've been here for over a week, and they continue to come out every single day, standing up for the president, and they have a very simple message. We keep relaying that, just as Boris just mentioned, and huge kudos to Boris and the work they're doing out here. They just want every legal vote counted, and they are fed up. They're frustrated. Why is it taking so long to get these votes counted? They were doing 140,000 a day in this county last week, and now they're doing 5,000 or 6,000. But last night when we saw that drop, it was huge. 6,000 votes, under 6,000 votes here in Maricopa, and we saw a drop of the spread by 1,500 votes. So that we saw that go below the 13,000 mark. And that's really what it comes down to, as Boris mentioned. I found out last night that supposedly they lost a voting machine at the Tempe Public Library. There's some folks that were looking for their votes. They've been calling every single day, and as of the last night, what they hear when they call is, we still can't find that voting machine. So there's all kinds of issues out here. But what we're seeing, talking to people on the ground, I was talking to some of the poll workers this morning, and I continue to hear the votes that are being counted now are far and away for President Trump. In fact, up to 75% of the ones that were being counted right behind me this morning when I talked to one of the gentlemen that was heading in there. It's wild. And then on top of that, it's Veterans Day. And so I've been able to interview folks on the ground, and just had an incredible interview with one of those gentlemen, one of our warriors who allows me to do what I do. And it's a privilege and it's an honor to do it.
Ben, can we go to that? Can we go to that interview right now? I want to go back to Denver and put up the interview Ben Bergquam just did moments ago.
My family has supported this country in the office of the presidency all our lives. And I was raised a Democrat until I did my own research, my own education, and had the conversations with my parents. Why were we voting Democratic? With that history, knowing that knowledge, and once I became acquainted with that knowledge, I became a Republican. Donald Trump has proven himself by the content of his character. Not everybody is going to like the way he talks, the way he walks, how he looks, his hair. I've heard it all. But the reality is the man has proven himself by the content of his character and what he's done for this country. We have been last as a nation for too many decades. This cannot be allowed to go on any longer. Any longer. This malicious, vile, vitriol, hatred has to stop. And the Democratic Party has been suckered into the Socialistic Party. I don't look at all Democrats and say, oh, you're all just screwed up, you're all lost, you've all drank the Kool-Aid. I've heard all the comments. The reality of it is, very simply, for decades, socialistic countries have wanted to take America down, and they did it from within. Why? Because America has had open arms to other countries' citizens that were seeking help. But in doing so, it's almost nearly impossible to vet every individual that comes into this country seeking asylum. So what happens? You have infiltrators. And you can say that goes back to my military training or whatever, but the reality is that's what we're dealing with. We now have socialists within our government, in our House of Representatives. And true Americans, Republican or Democrat, shouldn't stand for it. If you can't uphold the Constitution, sworn to protect, defend, and uphold the Constitution of the United States, if your agenda is to destroy that Constitution, you don't belong here. Point blank. That's how I feel about this election. And thousands and millions of us feel the same way. I know I have over 70 million people standing behind me. Even though right behind me right now on this camera, it may look empty, I have the spirits of over 70 million people right on my shoulders. And that's the way it is here.
Can we save it?
I think we have to. It's a responsibility to. We have to restore this country in the sight of God and in the presence of ourselves. We have that responsibility. It doesn't rest only on the shoulders of Donald Trump. And President Trump, don't give up. I know you've had an exhausting 4 years, but it is not your time to let go of the reins. We need you just as much as you need us.
Thank you, sir.
Let's go. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Ben, what's so powerful about that is, for like a typical veteran, he's saying, hey, it's been on the shoulders of Donald Trump for a long time. It's now time for us to put it on our shoulders. Is that the attitude you're seeing out there in Phoenix? You guys have been out there now for, it's been a week, right? It's been over a week, but you still see the enthusiasm. Is that the attitude you're seeing, that people are saying, hey, it's now time for us to put it on our shoulders?
Yeah, absolutely. If we don't do it now, this country's gone. And, you know, I think it's hard to even do the interview, because I think about men like Mark, the warriors in our country that go out there. And I think about my wife and my daughters. He doesn't know my wife, he doesn't know my daughters, but he made the choice to go out and put his life on the line for my family. And there are warriors across this country who do that every single day, and they're fighting right now for this freedom and for our liberty. And I believe the American people are waking up to it, and I pray that anyone who's watching this that sees that interview would be inspired by it. And if you have a story to tell about this country, that you would tell that story so that the next generation doesn't lose that. I worry about the next generation, but I believe in people like Mark, and I believe in networks like ours that tell the truth and that stand up for the values that made this country so great.
Ben Bergquam is reporting from Maricopa County. Ben, I want to thank you. Your reports have been just absolutely amazing. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
You know, Ben is a heck of a field reporter. The interview he had the other day with the guy with the beard, right, is saying it's now time for us to put it on our shoulders. And then it was the woman, the complete deplorable, that said this is bigger than Trump. This is bigger than the Republican Party. This is bigger than this presidential election. This is about the Constitution. It's about our republic. The folks out in Phoenix, the deplorables, get it. Don't you think, Jack?
Well, it was
Greg?
quite dramatic, too, to hear this guy say, we got to put this weight on our shoulders, and the camera pulls back, and he is in a wheelchair. Steve, if you like, I can give you Horatius at the gate.
I'll tell you what, we're going to do that to open the next. I want to hold because I want time to savor that. We're going to open. That's going to be our cold open in the next segment, on our last segment, on our Veterans Day special. I want to thank everybody who helped us put this on, particularly the guys in Denver, Real America's Voice. They're under attack nonstop by DDoS, by malware, by everything, trying to shut this show down. So really hat tip. And the reporting of Bergquam and others has been outstanding. We'll be back in a moment.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Okay, we're cold opening here with Horatius at the gate, and I'm going to give it to you from memory. Then outspake brave Horatius, the captain of the gate, to every man upon this earth, death cometh soon or late, and how can man die better than facing fearful odds for the ashes of his fathers and the temples of his gods? Be not afraid, people. We're in the fight, but we're in it to win it. Steve.
It's pretty impressive there, Jack Maxey. That's why you're the conscious of the show, to do that from memory, from all those brain cells that have died that many years ago at Yale. No, I don't even want to talk about Maxey and Kavanaugh at Yale. I'll leave that for another day. No, but that is another incredibly powerful. Was it Macaulay?
Lord Macaulay. And you know what's great? He was a 19th century historian when historians were a little bit more creative. So he did a history of Rome by writing an epic poem.
Exactly.
When men were truly educated, like our founders, right?
Yeah.
They wrote and spoke Greek and Latin. They'd read all the ancients. These were wise, smart guys.
Besides democracy in Greece, the founders modeled this off the Republic.
Yes.
And they were and Macaulay and others knew how to.
Just suspended People's Pundit.
Who just suspended? Twitter?
Just suspended Richard Barris.
Richard Barris at the People's Pundit. Fantastic. And he's been spending time on the show because he's got obligation. Absolutely incredible. Did a great job for us. We just found out Twitter has suspended his account. They don't want to hear the reality check. They're getting nervous. They're getting nervous. They're getting nervous because in Arizona, we're eating into that lead. It's down to under 5% of when Fox called it. In Georgia, a hand recount. In Michigan today, Greg Manns, who's now back from the campaign, back in the war room in his seat, listened to the whole thing. The court, their lawyers are nervous. They're nervous in Pennsylvania. They're nervous in Michigan and the state court and the federal court. They're getting hand recounts statewide in Georgia. You're going to pick up all kind of cheating. Biden can only win by cheating. He can only win by stealing Trump's victory. We're not going to let it happen. I don't care if we're fighting this in Nevada. I don't care if we're fighting this in Arizona. I don't care if we're going to fight in Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Georgia. We're not going to back off one instant. In Ben Bergquam's interview in Maricopa County out in Phoenix with the veteran from the last segment shows you why. He's defending the Constitution. He said it's time to put it on his shoulders, even bigger than Trump. I'm very proud now to bring in Captain Bannon, Captain Maureen Bannon, 101st Airborne, served in Iraq after West Point. Couldn't be prouder that my daughter went to the academy and is a veteran, like her uncle, who's a Navy pilot, and her dad, who's a naval officer, and her aunt, who's a Navy nurse. We got a lot of Navy, we got some Army. But I got to ask you a question. You took an oath to the Constitution. How does this? You saw the last segment. What we're fighting for, is it for, in your mind, is it for Trump or is it for the Constitution and the Republic?
It's for the Constitution and the Republic. If we don't fight right now to keep Trump in office, everything that this country stands for is going to come crumbling. We, in the oath of office, we swore to protect the Constitution against enemies foreign and domestic. That includes the current domestic issues that we have with the Democratic Party. They will tear this country down, and everything that we stand for will go down with it.
Okay, well, thank you very much. I'm glad you checked in on a happy Veterans Day and good commemoration on Veterans Day. Honored for your service and for your generation. I said when you were at West Point that your generation's, I think, the new greatest generation. You know why? These guys went out. She was in Iraq, I think, less than a year after she graduated. Some of her classmates went right away. They were really training these people to get ready for war and for combat, whether young men or women. And at that time, the people had kind of turned against the war. It wasn't that they weren't for the military. The country's very different than in Vietnam, but you could see it was less interest, right? And these people went over and really, in Iraq and Afghanistan, it was I couldn't be prouder of knowing all her friends and all these people out there. So Mo, thank you very much. Good Veterans Day. Thank you for coming on.
And I would be remiss if I didn't extend that to you and Jack, two Navy vets.
Thank you. So naval personnel, as we say, the senior. We had the birthday of the Marine Corps yesterday. Was that correct?
Yes, indeed.
We're the senior naval service, but we have tremendous respect for the Marines. Got a lot of Marines in the extended Bannon.
Well, the Marines
Bannon
are there
family.
to keep us in order, right?
Yeah, good. We're there to transport them. They're there to keep us in order. There's a lot going on here. We got a couple of minutes left here in the show. We got a big day tomorrow. We got so much we're trying to cram in here. But you can see the tide turning. Mainstream media is not going to report this. But you can see when the state legislature in Pennsylvania is coming forward and said, we need an audit. We got to have an accounting of what went on here. And we got to see what's going on here. You see it happening in Georgia. People in the Republican Party are kind of each other's throats, as they should be. Right. So,
and one of the things that you're going to hear in all these lawsuits is this claim of a violation of the Equal Protection Clause, which you'll find in the 14th Amendment, and why this is so poignant in this argument. The 14th Amendment was really created to define the citizenship rights of the freed African Americans after we had defeated the Democrats in the Civil War. And so what this was doing was really codifying their rights as citizens, and in part it was also about the franchise and their ability to vote. So this is very important. This whole thread of history that ties this country together is being explained. We're getting a civics lesson right now that our public schools have neglected to teach for now almost 60 years. And the American people, one of the things that you're going to find out is just how great our founding fathers were, how much they understood how flawed human beings are, and that's why they put in these checks and balances to make sure that we came to a conclusion that limited the flaws of the humans in the system as much as possible.
And one of the things I'm proud of in the show is that we said months ago that it wasn't the impeachment where we really started the show. It wasn't the impeachment that was really going to cause a constitutional crisis, right? You could see how that was going to kind of play out. But it was this vote in 2020, and particularly as you saw the Democrats go to this mail-in vote. Ladies and gentlemen, we're hurtling towards a real constitutional crisis. And it's going to start. This prairie fire is going to burn right up to the first week of December. And you're going to see some very interesting things. And we're going to need a couple of profiles and courage. We're going to need a couple of Horatius at the gate in the first week of December. Places like Michigan, Pennsylvania, Georgia. It's all coming. Till tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. Stephen K. Bannon, Greg Mans, Jack. You're in the war room.